Today, the state is the most fundamental concept we use to understand the world, manifesting itself through borders separated by colors on maps, flags, citizenship, and legal systems. For modern humans, law and the state are practically an inseparable whole. The state makes the laws, establishes the courts, and appoints the judges. However, in the pre-modern Islamic world, this relationship was vastly different. Although many independent dynasties like the Abbasids, Seljuks, Ayyubids, Mamluks, and Ottomans ruled across the geography, the Islamic world was never under the control of a single political authority. In this world, states provided security, collected taxes, secured roads, and when necessary, appointed judges, qadis, and executed their rulings. In short, while the power of enforcement came from the state, the Sultan's sword, the content of the law came from scholarly knowledge, the scholar's pen. The state grounded its legitimacy in its relationship with the Sharia. The customary rules, urfi rules, enacted by rulers were presented not as a new law replacing Sharia, but merely as administrative measures filling in the gaps, carefully avoiding any contradiction with it. Therefore, the measure of legitimacy lay not in the palace, but in the hands of the scholarly tradition. The most important element that set this world apart was that even though states and dynasties fell and capitals changed hands, the common legal tradition shaped around the Sharia continued to live on. The most striking example of this was seen during the devastating period when Mongol armies entered Baghdad and ended the Abbasid Caliphate. From a modern perspective, the collapse of the political center would be expected to collapse the legal system as well. Yet, despite the destruction of Baghdad, judges continued to rule in Cairo. Muftis continued to write legal opinions, fatwas, in Damascus, and the same works of jurisprudence, fiqh, continued to be taught in Anatolia and Samarkand. This was because the true center of the Sharia was not within the borders of a single state or inside the palace of a caliph, but in a shared legal and scholarly tradition built over centuries. The ability of this system to stand even as states collapsed relied on the autonomy of educational institutions. After the death of the Seljuk Grand Vizier, Nizam ul-Mulk, the state fractured and shook, yet the Nizamiye madrasas continued to provide education. This was because these madrasas were not directly dependent on the state treasury. They drew their revenues from charitable endowments, waqfs, trained their teachers through the scholarly community, ulema, and bound their students to new generations through the license, ijaza system. In short, what sustained law and scholarship was not just the state, but an entire civilizational network of endowments, legal schools, and scholars. Thanks to this common ground, people in the Islamic world could move freely across a shared civilizational space without being hindered by political borders. A merchant living in Morocco did not encounter a foreign legal system when traveling to Cairo, and a student trained in Damascus could join a study circle in Bukhara without having to start their education from scratch. The most concrete historical witness to this is the famous traveler and jurist Ibn Battuta, who set out from Tangier, Morocco, and traveled almost the entire known Islamic world for 30 years. Although Ibn Battuta crossed the territories of dozens of different dynasties, he encountered a common scholarly language everywhere, where the same jurisprudential issues were known and the same fundamental madrasa texts were read. In fact, thanks to this shared legal ground, the Sultan of Delhi was able to appoint a Moroccan-trained Maliki jurist, as a judge in his own country. While the authority of a legal expert in the modern world is confined to the borders of the state they belong to, in Ibn Battuta's world, law belonged to a civilizational space far wider than states. The most important document the traveler carried with him was not his passport, but his scholarly authority. In conclusion, the Islamic world, Alami Islam, should be understood not as a single empire, but as a shared civilizational space. This world had no single capital, yet it possessed shared centers of learning like Baghdad, Cairo, and Samarkand. It had no single ruler, yet it shared a common legal language. It had no single citizenship, yet it shared a powerful sense of belonging, derived from being part of the same legal and scholarly world. Sharia, beyond being a set of courtroom rules, was an institutional order that united millions of people living under different states around a shared morality and law. In this way, even when states fell and new ones were established, law was not reinvented from scratch, but lived on continuously. Before the modern world was built, Muslims had constructed a world where political borders constantly shifted, but a common civilization and law endured. Therefore, the first step to truly understanding the pre-modern Islamic world is to stop reading history merely as the history of states, and to focus instead on the shared civilizational bonds and institutions that outlived them.